Buenos días.
2022 was a year to remember in the adventure game industry. Not only did we have some incredible new developers hit the scene and hit with some incredible releases, but we had the old guard making their presence known once again. We had the Williams come out of retirement, and Ron Gilbert came back to Monkey Island. Oh, and Adventure Game Hotspot hit the scene. Go us! Speaking of which, we played the games, we reviewed the games, and we ranked the games. Here are our top 15 adventure games that we played in 2022 as chosen by the entire Adventure Game Hotspot staff. Number 15, Brok, the Investigator. Cowcat's Brok the Investigator is a unique hybrid between beat-em-up arcade game and puzzle field detective story. Set in a futuristic dystopian world inhabited by incredible characters, all brought beautifully to life in an art style that resembles the classic 90s cartoons, it deals with the conflict between those who live outside and inside, dividing the Hermetic Dome. The real story is less about the society that they inhabit, and more about the relationship between a titular alligator, former boxing champ turned detective, and his now deceased wife's feline son, and how they grow closer, or farther apart, depending on the choices that you make. The point-and-click aspects are well designed, yet it's the ability to switch to combat mode and just punch and kick your way through enemies or obstacles that make for such fun and varied experience. You can opt out of fighting completely if fisticuffs aren't your thing, but we encourage you to try. And there's simply nothing else this year that so gloriously manages to fuse together such different genres, ideas, and characters. Number 14, The Quarry. For any gamer with even passing fondness for the cheesy scares and goofy schlock of a good teen slasher, Supermassive Games needs little introduction. The acclaimed British developer set a high bar to clear with 2015's Until Dawn, and has been churning out a steady flow of new horror releases ever since. Featuring the same choice-heavy, gameplay-light formula, The Quarry reaches for that high water mark set 7 years ago. It nearly manages it, too, with a rich atmosphere and a cast that's as fun and lovable as we've seen since then, portrayed by a star-studded, multi-generational list of Hollywood actors. What could be campier than an actual group of summer camp counselors in over their heads? In this case, trapped overnight as something grim and bloodthirsty picks up their scent. With an entrancing soundtrack supporting the eerie chills, this is one night in the woods you won't want to weather alone. And you don't have to, because you could play either on your own or in co-op with a friend. The Quarry is popcorn gaming at its finest. Number 13, Lost in Play. As befits the first game from a development studio called Happy Juice, Lost in Play is about as delightful a game as it gets. This captivating point-and-click adventure about two siblings and their wild escapades in a whimsical make-believe world has humor, childlike charm, and the look and personality of a Saturday morning cartoon. Even with its relatively short playtime, the experience is packed to the gills with fresh and playful ideas, with no two characters, locations, or puzzles feeling the same. It's a game that anyone young at heart will appreciate, but since the pace is fast and the challenge level is fairly light, for those with kids or their own, it works especially well for playing together as a family. The quirky jokes, imaginative scenarios, the nostalgia, and the setting will dole out smiles all around on the way to its heartwarming ending. Number 12, The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow. Cloak and Daggers, The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow aims to tell a quiet late Victorian folktale, a real and earthy one that burns ever so slowly in unveiling its haunting mystery. Players control Thomasita Bateman, visiting the sleepy English village of Boulay to dig up an old burial mound on the advice of a local who's since disappeared. As you explore the town and its eerie surroundings, you'll begin to uncover a story that ties supernatural legend together with cosmic horror with a movingly personal touch. The sprawling countryside is depicted in gorgeous pixel art, accompanied by a soundtrack that's light and chilling, never overshadowing the natural ambiance of babbling brook or wind whipping over the moors. The puzzles are not elaborate, as the game prefers a cool and simple approach, impressive in its restraint. The deliberate pacing might not appeal to everyone at first, but it culminates in a tremendous final act that ensures it will stick with you long after you're done. Number 11. Voodoo Detective. Another pleasant surprise from a fresh new developer, Short Sleeve Studio. Voodoo Detective's tone and visual style feel like a confident combination of a late 2D era LucasArts point-and-click classic and the original Broken Sword. The often zany plot unfolds on the once charming, now over-commercialized Isle of Zowenga in the 1930s, where our perpetually down on his luck protagonist, whose name is actually Voodoo, is pushed into action by a client determined to discover who wiped her memory. It's got charm by the boatload, with its numerous beautiful hand-drawn scenes and animated characters providing a visual feast, accompanied by great voice acting and a lovely jazzy score by Grim Fandango composer Peter McConnell. Not every puzzle lands as well as the others, but overall it's quite a blast from start to finish. Fun, silly, yet with a compelling mystery at its core. Number 10. Immortality. The latest FMV production from Sam Barlow and his team at Half Mermaid is an extravagant, lavish love letter to cinema and an intriguing mystery to boot. Players must remotely scour through B-roll footage and discarded video clips from the 3 original films spanning 3 different eras, along with other assorted media appearances for clues to what really happened to doomed Hollywood starlet Marissa Marcel. Barlow is clearly growing as a director himself, and the acting throughout it is sublime, including terrifying, creepy performances by Charlotte Molin, and most notably the starring role from Manon Gage, who plays both on-screen and off-screen Marissa across several decades and absolutely nails every scene that she's in. As with every game from the creator of Her Story, there will be moments where you're unsure if you've figured everything out and when to call it a day. But stick with it to unravel one of the most unique and jaw-dropping bonkers experiences of 2022. Number 9. Crowns and Pawns, Kingdom of Deceit. To call Crowns and Pawns, Kingdom of Deceit a Broken Sword clone would do it a great injustice. It wears its influence proudly on its sleeve, but Tack of Joy's stellar debut is an epic adventure with a distinctly Lithuanian feel that stands as an excellent game in its own right. When young Milda leaves Chicago and wings across the ocean to settle her deceased grandfather's affairs in his Baltic homeland, she soon gets swept up in the tale of intrigue, lost artifacts, and interwoven Lithuanian history that would give George Stobart a run for his money. Set in a world of lush visuals and rich audio, its tale is a lot of fun to uncover, even as you find new ways to cover up the protagonist. Adding the enjoyment is the ability to customize Milda's wardrobe and career, both of which have clever impact on the puzzles that you must overcome. With the hint of future adventures on the horizon, this splendid start to Milda's journey will hopefully not be the last. Number 8. Far, Changing Tides. As a sequel to the excellent Far, Lone Sails, Okamotive's Changing Tides further develops the side-scrolling vehicular adventure of its predecessor, complete with a sprawling, half-sunken world to explore and a variety of clever ways to interact with your aquatic vessel and the lonely machines scattered throughout the desolate, waterlogged landscapes. The hybrid gameplay of platforming, puzzle solving, and resource management isn't especially challenging, but everything from the stunning visuals and beautiful folk classical score and the subtle details of weather changes and animal life makes Changing Tides another work of art. Despite the melancholy post-apocalyptic scenario, the game keeps wonder alive as you traverse the environments above or below the waterline, traversing through each obstacle until you arrive at a fittingly moving finale. It's a story of beauty amid chaos, hope in the face of disaster, and new beginnings even at the end of the world. Number 7. Stray. Wandering a broken, post-apocalyptic world may never be more fun than through the eyes of a feline protagonist in Blue 12 Studios' Stray. It's more linear than you might expect, but as you prowl, pounce, and claw your way through the fascinating cyberpunk environment, You'll spend many enjoyable hours exploring the neon-lit back alleys and apartment balconies of Robot City, long since devoid of human beings. With its quirky android characters, intuitive puzzles, and worthwhile side quests, all accompanied by beautiful and atmospheric soundtrack, Stray checks all the boxes that qualifies as a memorable adventure. The adorable Tabby is joined by an amnesiac drone named B12, and together they discover what has happened to this run-down but stunningly realized world. Step by four-legged step on the way to a reunion with its furry protagonist buddies, the journey is sure to leave you purring in delight. Number 6. Lucid Dreaming. Playing Tall Story Games' Lucid Dreaming caused to lose quite a bit of sleep, staying up far too late because we couldn't get enough of its potent combination of charm, challenge, and just plain fun. It's also really funny in a distinctively British way, which you might not expect from a mystery so compelling it'd do Alfred Hitchcock proud. Alternating time spent in Lucy's present-day real world with a more fanciful, nostalgia-tinged locales in depths of her subconsciousness is entirely appropriate, because this game beautifully co-occupies the space of modern original and loving homage to the golden age of pixel art point-and-click classics. Its endearing young protagonist leads a colorful cast of characters, all skillfully acted, and there's more than enough thoughtful puzzles to solve in a delightfully substantial adventure to remind us that sometimes they really do make them like they used to. Number 5. Perfect Tides. Real-life adventures can be as scary and confusing as they are exhilarating, often with no clear end in sight. Mara Whitefish, protagonist of Meredith Grand's Perfect Tides, is a 15-year-old dreamer stuck in a tiny tourist community with no outlet but the internet at the turn of millennium, and she'd like nothing more than for her adventures through school, toward adulthood, across the raging sea of hormones to end. She's imagined a life for herself, and she just has to survive adolescence to start living it. Following Mara across a year of her life, through challenges at home, in her social life, and online, players will experience every high and low right along with her. The stellar writing, impeccable cartoon art, and deep, empathetic characterization allow us to feel every step on her journey as if they were our own. And the puzzle design helps to remind us of real challenges we once faced as teenagers. A testament to the intense reality of youthful emotion and creativity, resilience, and value that we so often overlook in young people, Perfect Tides is a timeless adventure for all ages. Number 4. Return to Monkey Island. No adventure game this year had to shoulder the expectations that Return to Monkey Island did, so we were overjoyed when it largely met those expectations and sometimes even surpassed them. Once more in the hands of Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman for the first time in over 30 years, Guybrush Threepwood is back, and he's as lovable as ever, in a obliviously dastardly sort of way, and voiced to perfection by a superb Dominic Armato. For his latest voyage, he brings along most of his beloved series favorites, along with a worthy bunch of new characters in a story that's one of the franchise's best yet. The puzzles are satisfying, the punchlines will have you squirting milk out of your nose, and the graphics prove to be the perfect vehicle for delivering the many madcap capers and mischievous escapades. It even leaves us with another ending to think about, and possibly new adventures to follow. Many happy returns. Number 3. Syberia, The World Before. You just can't keep a good adventurer down. Not only was Kate Walker in desperate need of a bounce-back performance from the underwhelming Syberia 3, she starts off The World Before imprisoned in a Russian salt mine. In the hands of Microids Studio Paris, however, Kate soon escapes and embarks on a journey to explore the background of the game's second playable character, Dana Rose, which you'll get to experience firsthand. Players must guide the 17-year-old Dana, who bears a striking resemblance to Kate, through the tumultuous 1930s in the shadow of the Second World War. Following in her footsteps decades later, as Kate probes ever deeper and learns how the two women's lives are intertwined, she's forced to confront the reality of the choices she's made. filled with the poignant moments of tragedy, wonder, and joy, all taking place in a gorgeously designed world. This is truly an experience worthy of the Syberia name, and a beautiful tribute to Kate's creator. Number 2. Norco. With Norco, first-time developer, Geography of Robots, was able to brilliantly weave together a story about family and the ghosts that are shared across generations. An indictment of a society that deems certain people and communities worth sacrificing at the altar of profit. A science-fictional look at the possible future of industrial capitalism, and a haunting tale about the powers that seek to harness the spirits of people and places for their own purposes. It begins simply with a young woman returning to her shattered family home, and from there blossoms outward to encompass all humanity, along the way introducing monsters, prophets, alien beings, and wanderers through the corridors of time. A haunting score and gorgeous visuals suffuse the experience with the melancholy and longing of its brilliantly drawn characters, and its world is like nothing else in the adventure genre. A game like Norco almost defies explanation, but in the end, the only other thing that really needs to be said is, play it. We're just about there. We're just about ready to show you the number 1, the Adventure Game of the Year by Adventure Game Hotspot. Before you do us a favor. If you like it, like it. Maybe hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you very, very much. And like we said, number 1, The Case of the Golden Idol. Every once in a while, a game comes along that's so thoroughly itself that you can't help but wonder why it hasn't already been done before. That it's the very first release by a small, new development studio makes it all the more impressive. It borrows heavily from the Return to Oberdeen's whodunit deduction rulebook, but The Case of the Golden Idol's gameplay quickly and gleefully upends the traditional genre conventions while never losing sight of its roots, establishing itself as a true, one-of-a-kind original. Surpassing 2 adventure game titans and many other fellow impressive indie competitors for the top spot, this surprising little gem is the Hotspot's brightest highlight as our adventure game of the year for 2022. Players are presented with a dozen murder scenes and then asked to identify all the key details through fill-in-the-blank style interface, where your only inventory items are the words you've dragged straight out of the various books, letters, and signage spread throughout the scene. Going far beyond clue-like basics, Golden Isle mixes up and frequently asks you to ID every single witness, figure out who ate what for dinner, or learn the customs of the secret societies operating in its fictionalized 18th century setting. The game has strikingly animated art, excellent music, brilliant red herrings, and non-stop sleuthing. It's a smashing, totally filler-free experience that keeps your brain engaged at every elaborate turn and nails the aha satisfaction of cracking a case like nobody else. Well done, Color Grade Games. You killed it. And well done to everybody else. There it is, Adventure Game Hotspot's 15 Best Games of 2022. You can see the accompanying article over at, you guessed it, AdventureGameHotspot.com. Like I said, before you go, if you can maybe hit subscribe, because this is a new YouTube channel. It would really, really help us if we can get some more additions onto the channel. We will certainly add more content going forward. I am Joshua, YouTube's Weird Gaming Adventure and co-founder of Adventure Game Hotspot, and all of us over at the Hotspot want to thank you for watching and reading. See you around, my friends.